Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We're going to start off by greasing our bread pan. I always use vegetable shortening. I know it isn't the healthiest oil, but it works great to prevent sticking. Any mild flavor oil will work for this. I was just raised to use vegetable shortening by my grandmother. I just put my hands in the container, and I only use this vegetable shortening for baking. You just want to cover all of the interior of the pan, anywhere where the bread could touch and stick. You want to grab a medium-sized bowl to start mixing your dry goods. I love this large container that holds my flour. It holds about 25 pounds of flour. I bake a lot and make my own bread weekly, so my family goes through a lot of flour every week. Plus, this container has a nice opening right up front that I can get flour out and not have to move the entire container. I highly recommend this container if you feel traditional containers are too small for your needs. We're going to start off with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. We are going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda into the bowl of flour. Next, we are going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. The lid I use on my salt actually came from a container of Kraft Parmesan. Parmesan in most mayonnaise lids will fit on a mason jar and allow you to reuse the plastics. Now we just stir the dry ingredients well. We will need another glass bowl to soften some butter in the microwave. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup of butter, which is 1 whole stick. A trick that I like to use is place the wrapper over the top to prevent the butter from splashing all over the inside of your microwave. You just want to soften the butter, so I would only place it in the microwave for 15 to 30 seconds, depending on how well your microwave warms up. Now we just add 1 cup of brown sugar into the butter. This is freshly made brown sugar, so it will be nice and fluffy. It is also darker than store-bought since I was able to add more molasses than what they use commercially. You want to mix it well with the butter until it has a nice smooth consistency. I already posted the video of how I made my brown sugar, and I will tag it at the end of this video. It took me less than 10 minutes to make, and it's way better than store-bought. Next, we will add 2 eggs into the butter and brown sugar bowl. Once you added your eggs, you just want to make sure the eggs are well mixed into the butter and brown sugar mixture. The recipe calls for 3 bananas mashed, but I have a big bag of frozen bananas that I got from Azure Standard. I just lay it on the counter to soften it up. I decided to do about 3.5 cups of bananas as a substitute for 3 whole bananas. I don't really measure too accurately when I cook. You are just going to mix the bananas well into the butter and sugar until the bananas are evenly in the mixture. You do not want to overmix this part. After you have the bananas mixed in, you're just going to pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and mix until you no longer see any dry flour. The last step of the banana bread is adding it to the bread pan. The original recipe claimed that this was supposed to make 2 7x3-inch loaves, but this was just enough to make 1 loaf for me. We baked the bread at 350 degrees for 1 hour. With my oven, I should have baked it another 10 to 15 minutes. I like my banana bread a little bit firmer. I hardly ever make banana bread. It isn't one of my favorites, but my husband requested it, so I mostly made it for him. We are going to start on the blueberry muffins now. I'm going to use muffin wrappers, but you can just grease your pan if you don't have any. I just placed the muffin pan out of the way while I start on the batter. We are going to start off with 1.5 cups of flour. This is a better angle of my flour container I use and shows the front door well. I will post a link for this container down below. I believe I got it off Amazon. Next, we will add 1/2 teaspoon of salt into the flour. After the salt, we will add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I got this large amount from Azure Standard. I will do a grocery haul next time I order from them. I do not purchase from them too often since the pickup is over an hour away. Next, we will add 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. I'm using canola oil since it is fairly cheap at the moment. Our grocery bill was cut back with the price increases. I do recommend using avocado oil if you can. The recipe calls for 1 egg and I'm using a fresh egg we just collected this morning. I love having chickens. It seems like I always run out of eggs when I wanted to do some baking. Next, we will add 1/3 cup of milk. I usually buy organic milk, but our store was sold out, so I'm using 2% here. I do recommend whole milk for baking, as it gives it a better flavor. The final ingredient is 1 cup of blueberries. These are also from Azure Standard. I got 25 pounds of blueberries from them last time. Now we just mix the ingredients together until they are well combined. I try not to over mix mine since I like to keep my blueberries more intact. You are looking for a pancake batter mixture with this recipe. The final step is just adding the batter into the muffin cup. I try to keep them all filled evenly by adding half of the batter into each cup first and then adding more if needed. This recipe rises quite a bit, so it may not seem like I'm using a lot of batter, but it all works out in the end. Here they are all filled to about halfway evenly between the 12 cups. I think I had 1 or 2 that was on the smaller side, which is perfect for a toddler anyway. The original recipe calls for a sugar crumb top, but I don't want to give my toddler too much sugar at one time. If you are making these for a guest, then I highly recommend the sugar topping. I will post the full recipe down below. I always bang the muffin tin on the counter to get rid of any of the air bubbles. Here is the banana bread coming out of the oven. It looks and smells great. Now the blueberry muffins will bake at 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. I always check if it is done by inserting a toothpick into several places. The first spot I must have hit a banana section because it came back a little wet. I always try a few spots just to be sure. Plus the inside will continue to cook a little bit more while it is cooling. I let the bread cool for 10 to 15 minutes before I try to dump the bread out on a wire cooling rack. I always inspect my loaves to see if they pull away from the sides easily or if it needs some gentle assistance to come out clean. This loaf came out very clean and looks great. It didn't stick at all. The blueberry muffins are finally done and they look and smell great. I don't have heat-proof countertops, so I had to place a hand towel down underneath them to prevent my counters from burning. I just take out each muffin with a spoon and place them on the wire rack to fully cool. This recipe is really simple and one of my go-to for a quick breakfast for my daughter. I tried to make everything she eats from scratch, and some days I'm not in a mood to bake or cook in the early mornings. The last few days I have been feeling less motivated in the morning, so this will be a nice break for a few days. Here is the final products of our baking day. Banana bread for my husband and blueberry muffins for my daughter. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen today. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to join me again.